when I met Nick and we started dating.
That's
So,
as people do.
right, we started dating and I sat down in his bed and I could have I could have gone through the floor. I'm like, "What is this? What is this mattress? What? It's soft. It's soft?" I almost left. I was like,
Yeah, that was a deal
this
breaker.
relationship is not going to work. You live in Brooklyn. I've had to take 3 subways to get to you, and you're quite literally sleeping in Play-Doh. This relationship's not gonna work. But I conned him into sleeping on this mattress like that. I was like, "We're getting
Yeah.
this mattress."
You
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Between Two Coaches. This is the season finale.
Oh, is this what we're calling it?
I've decided, effective immediately, the season finale of Between Two Coaches. I'm Coach Amanda,
And
and I'm
I
joined.
Oh no, I was too soon. We're off. This is the end. This is why it's the season's finale, folks. We are off the mark.
It's your turn now. Go
It's my
ahead.
turn. I am Coach Nick. I was a little early. It's not like we've done 54 of these already, but our rhythm's a little
What?
off. We are, yes, as Amanda said, we are season finale, more or less a break for 4 to 5 weeks, 6 weeks. We're gonna take some summertime off and relax, and we're doing some vacations, and yeah, so we'll be back. Don't worry. But today we're here, and it's the two of us, and we're gonna talk about a fun little topic. About if you could do it all over again, what would you change? We're going to talk maybe a couple athletics related ones, a couple life ones, and just kind of reflect about, our lives a little bit and have a little fun with that. Right, Amanda? That sounds like a fun time.
It was a good did I say it was an awesome idea at the time? I
You
said it
did
was
give me
awesome?
kudos. Yeah, yeah. That was the nicest thing you've ever said. That's why I saved it in text messages with hearts around it. And, it's actually my background right now. So
I think,
see you later, kids.
yeah, I must have been sedated when I said it was an awesome idea,
I was
but
shocked. I thought someone else took your phone, honestly.
it's possible. No, it's when I'm in between teaching spin classes and coaching clients, I'm in the hype state. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
all jokes aside, it's a fabulous idea. Hate talking about myself, but I love the thought of reflecting on our past and how it informs our present. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to what we're going to have to say today, which we will both figure out as we're saying it.
yeah. Well, I wrote some notes because I'm a prepared student. But yes,
I'm prepared too. Okay. It's in a secret Google Doc.
secret Google Doc. We love that. But before that, Amanda, you this
No,
time you said you didn't want to talk about real life, but I'm definitely going to ask you, how is your real life going?
real life.
That's the life
Is this
outside of,
the real life? That's the life outside of this podcast.
yeah, those things you do.
It's good. Let me just pull up my Google Calendar to see what
But yeah, I
real
mean,
life
we only do
things
this.
that
We only ask you every week, so I could see how it could be a cut you off
it's
guard every
very,
time.
very confusing time for me. I had a positive weekend. I had Saturday morning. I was invited to the Front Runners sponsored Pride Run, the 4 miler.
Oh, that is fun. But you
I
have to
got
be
it was
invite only.
no, it what no, 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 no.
It's a race, but you just got okay. I got it.
Yes. NYR offered me a bit.
Yeah, you don't have to.
And
I got it. Yeah,
no, I think it's important to say these things. So that's I'm disclosing that, and it is I felt so content being there. It was a part of just the opportunity to listen to different individuals speak in the beginning about their experience with pride. And one of my favorite mantras or slogans that comes from Pride Month, and considering that the Pride Run closed out Pride Month, was pride keeps people alive. And I don't think that there's a better during this time when there's really a lot of people whose humanity. It's their humanity is being questioned right now. It was just such a wonderful reminder that there's so much love around us, and especially in New York. So, what a great experience. And then on Sunday, I became a godmother,
Oh my gosh. Way to bury the lead.
a godmother.
Should we change your name to Godmother in here? Let's just do that while you
Yes,
talk.
don't do that. Spell it GAWD. God,
I'm on it.
godmother, with no R at the end. Like I'm
Uh,
from Bensonhurst.
Do we put an A at the end?
Godmother. Yeah, godmother.
All right. No one can see this, but it's good for us.
Yeah, it's true. And that was nice. And that's
Did you get all your duties that you have? Did you know them all yet? It's a big responsibility
as
to be the godmother.
the godmother. Yeah, a little bit about me is that I come from a mixed family, and my sister, I practice very lightly practice Judaism culturally, but my sister is Catholic, and my sister, she accepts me for who I am. And what she does is she knows that every responsibility and duty as godmother is also what I perform as TT.
Yeah.
And that's to ensure that everyone has some generational wealth when they're growing up. And that's
You got
my
to get that
goal.
money to you got to get that money to the little one.
So
That's
when
your
my
job.
nephew and niece, that's so my nephew and niece are going to be taken care of
But you're a dual
financially.
godmother?
No, that's just something that's
I got it.
TT
I got it.
Judy.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
I mean, Nick has to understand his the money gets split three ways: the two nephews and nieces, and then he gets the other third of the coin.
hardly, and that's hard
Maybe
for him to
less. Yeah,
accept. It's
yeah.
hard for him. But my Nick is the godfather, actually.
So he's got to give up half of the coin too. These kids are getting rich. They're getting loaded.
Nick is the provider of love and affection,
Yeah,
and I'm the real provider.
you're fired out the finance. Good thing he doesn't
So
listen.
yeah, it's so true. He does. No, he presses play on this podcast.
You got to download, but don't listen. That's the key.
That's what he does. That's how we keep the ratings where they are. Anyway, how was your weekend?
Oh my, was it a weekend? Let's see here. We took a weekend off because it's 16 weeks to Marine Corps as of Sunday, and I wanted a reset week. So I just took the weekend off. I wasn't going to plan to take the whole weekend off, but then my mom was here and we went to the Orioles game and we did some other stuff. And I was just like, well, I'll just reset. Took
That was
took
good.
some run time off. I always like to do that before training block. I also have was vividly reminded of that many times during COVID where we didn't really have training blocks because there were no races, and training people for long periods of time, to get ready for whenever a race might start. Sometimes we didn't build in those breaks that you naturally would have when, oh, go run this marathon. Okay, take 2 weeks off. It was easier for athletes to accept that than be like, well, there's nothing to train for, but there might be. And so I constantly always build in. And for the same thing for me, when I have like a marathon and it's, 16, 12 weeks away, then I'll plan in a break. So I did that. Went to Orioles game. Kids made it all the way to the eighth inning, which is huge because it's baseball. Baseball's gotten shorter, which is nice because it used to take like
You
three and
went
a
to a
half hours.
matinee or you went to an evening?
It was like a 1:30 Sundays. Yeah,
That's
Sunday all
good.
the games are started at 1:30. But yeah, it was good. It was a good time. It was just hot. Worse for the
Yeah.
players than us because we're just standing. We're sitting. They're running around dying. But that said, yeah, it was good. And Yeah, I otherwise kids are doing well. Mother visited over the weekend, so I got some mom son
Mother.
time. Yeah, and we're getting ready for the 4th of July, and the in-laws are visiting this week. So, my house is a apartment complex, is basically a hotel for 2 weeks. So
So
it's
much
fine.
fun.
So much fun, but we're doing it. So yeah, things are good here. Nothing big to report, but excited to train for a marathon. Although I ran out and ran today and died in Amanda's heat, and I got some blood work done today. So don't skip on your annual blood work. I've been feeling a little tired, It might just be sleep or other reasons, but we're gonna check out things like iron and magnesium, and we're
Ferritin.
gonna get some numbers and see. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're gonna see if it's that. I've never been like, some people talk about their ferritin like in single digits or in the tens, but I've had times where it's in the 30s or 40s and I felt it. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Otherwise, trucking along.
That's great. You had quite a nice weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Why did you just thank
Well,
me?
because you said I had a great weekend, and I wanted to thank you for acknowledging that.
I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
You don't have to acknowledge it. You could be like, I did have a great weekend.
I did have a great weekend. Thank you for saying that.
That's how yep, that's what you do.
Yep.
So, and when someone gives you a compliment,
You
like,
say thank you so much for
your
your
skin
compliment.
looks really bright
Thank
today.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
You see how easy that was? You look
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Okay.
I like giving compliments. Don't love receiving them. I like if I receive them, I just like nonchalant. You just push them away, right? Like you don't want too many compliments, right? So you just go, "Oh
I
yeah,
feel that way.
yeah." So it's my way of doing it, which doesn't work well because then I feel like no one's ever complimented me, and they're like, "You rush aside them all," and I'm like, "I know, but can you? Now I want one."
It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Maybe that's something you can work on in the off
There,
season.
yeah, that's gonna be good. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna be accepting of
He's a different man.
all compliments. Send me compliments in my DMs and I will not respond to them and just be like, "Yep." Right?
I don't think we're gonna do that. I don't
Okay,
think
let's
that's
do
what we're
fine.
gonna do. So as most of you know, we have a shared Google Doc where
We do.
we plan the podcast. So I'm in the doc and I see that
We have a grievance.
we have a grievance, but this is
Ooh,
also like real life stuff. We can talk about the fact that we had a huge running event, specifically in the ultra running world.
we did.
Western States happened this past weekend.
Yeah.
Western States, it's a 100-mile race and it is the oldest. Can you fact check me on that? Is it the
It is the
oldest?
oldest, yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna fact check you.
Yeah, please do. Please fact check me on that. Justin is listening to this right now, like,
He's like,
yes, it
"You
is.
idiots."
It's the oldest
It is.
100-mile trail race.
Yes, it is. We're good.
Yes. Woo, thank God. Okay,
It
so
is. The cover,
thank God.
and so it takes place Saturday and it lasted until 30 hours. It's about the time you can finish and can be considered a finisher.
Yep.
So starts 5 a.m. Eastern Pacific time on Saturday, and 30 hours later, whatever that is, I'm not going to do math. It's 24 plus 6, so it's 11 a.m. on Sunday is the end, and it's, it's great on social media. Lots of people reporting on results and people following along. It gets a lot of attention and eyes. And, my old coach, David Roach, was running.
Shout out, David.
Shout out, David. He's been very much sharing about his journey, in his podcast, on social media, sharing his training, and I think the more you share and the more fans you get, the more hate you get, right? Isn't that the way that works? Even though it shouldn't, because it feels like I always talk about this with sports, like in any sport, right? There's that team who, there's the Yankees, right? And they win all the time, and everyone's like, oh, God, they're winning too much. And the only people who like them are New Yorkers, and everyone else kind of hates them. And then that underdog comes up, and
And
then
Mets fans.
and Mets fans, yeah. And then the underdog comes up and they win. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, you took down the best team. But then the underdog wins too much. And now we hate the underdog because, oh, they're obnoxious. They're winning too much. It happens all the time in sports. And it feels like anytime this story of like, oh, well, it's an underdog. Oh, well, now they're too popular. So now I have to root against them because I don't want to see that all the time. Or I don't know. So the grievance here is I hopped on the Western States feed and I started watching, and David had just dropped out around, I think it's minus 64, somewhere around there. And the feed was the most toxic place I've ever been. And running is, I've lived my life, unfortunately, because Let's Run message boards were the only place to live in 2000 when you were running in high school and college. Like there wasn't this much publicity about running, and the internet was obviously new. So you lived on this toxic Let's Run boards. And I lived the life of seeing just that toxicness until I stopped using it because running became more mainstream elsewhere. And even this feed for a sport that is supposed to be so embracing of runners, and it's trail running, and everyone's, it is supposed to be more joyful and more supportive. It was toxic. And, I put a post about it. A lot of people were saying, oh, well, they were supportive, but joking around. And I'm like, I know David, there was if you haven't seen it yet, there's a series called David Poach where someone had a parody about him and did a little series. And
I
David,
don't.
yeah,
Is it cute or it's not? It's not cute. Yeah,
I
I
thought
don't like it.
I thought it was David acknowledged it as, hey, haha, way to, be funny about it. You don't know if he really was or not. Sometimes you just lean into parodies because you're like, if I don't, it becomes worse. So I don't know. I watched it. It was like, it was whatever. But I'm a David fan, obviously, for various reasons. A, like he was my coach, and B, I've known him for 7 years, more than that now. But anyway, when he dropped out, the feed got toxic as hell. Just very much. We've dropped out. Oh, what's he gonna do? Run a 4-minute mile? Oh, is he gonna come back in? And just like, I don't know. It was like and it didn't. It wasn't like, oh, he just dropped out. Let's have this wave of like 30 minutes of it. It lasted well after the winner finished, after second place finished, after third place finished, after the first woman finished. The feed was just nonstop snarking and rude and obnoxious comments of people like, I knew he'd fail. I'm like,
Yeah.
he thought he might fail too. Like his whole story was, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm chasing science. I don't know if I can do this. This is the way I want to train. I'll see what happens. Like that was his story. And like mocking him because it didn't work out, he literally said, I don't know if it'll work out. So I don't know. It was just, yeah, go ahead.
Imagine sitting on your couch, just keyboarding away when somebody shoots their shot and they miss, and you're like, and you drag them for missing. How embarrassing for you. If you're listening to this and you've fed into that, you can immediately please leave. Please leave. In fact, tell us that you're leaving. I would love that. That is
Announce.
so embarrassing. Announce your departure, right? That way I can shine a light on the trollism. Oh my God, it's horrible. I did not read any of the chats. I had the YouTube stream up on my television.
Yeah.
So I was not going
It
through
was
the
good
chat.
coverage. Like the
Yeah,
coverage has gotten
yeah.
so much better. It used to exist you'd only be on Twitter and you'd watch I Run Far and they'd give updates. And that's the only thing you know. And now you got drones following around, you got cameras, people running, you got coverage everywhere. I'm like, this is cool.
It is so cool. And I think that I just wish that people, if they just shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Be
I don't
quiet. If you cannot think of anything that is productive to say, just shut up.
yeah.
And I know that they're on the couch, not out there running 100-mile races or preparing for them.
No one who's ran that race is in here like afterwards being like, haha, David didn't like accomplish it. Like that
No.
literally wouldn't happen. Like no one who's finished a 100-miler is out here saying that. It's just, someone told me to watch the YouTube next year without the chat, and I was like, that's a fair point. You can just turn it off.
I
It
have
just,
to tell you, it was
yeah,
quite
yeah.
enjoyable.
I didn't know. I had opened it up and there it was, and I was like, I was trying to see what was going on because the chat sometimes knew things. But you listen, learn, don't follow the chat. But also at the same time, it's just like you don't have to root for people. I don't care who you root for. Like you can be like, oh, I don't want him to win or succeed. That's fine. But like to get in the chat and like obnoxiously make comments about it, it's like,
Why?
why? Like, why? What? You have to have something better to do. Time. Go touch grass. Go for a run. Go do anything else other than like insult someone who's trying their best and didn't succeed. Like, who cares? Like, they didn't. Okay, he's not.
And he's not alone in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It was very shocking for trail running, which always makes itself very known that it's supportive and kind, and everyone's out here and they're all like,
Yes.
they're competitive, but they're happy. And I know lots of people on the stream because Western States brings in road runners and others. Like it brings in other people. So those people maybe aren't normally the trail running fandom, but it was nuts. And I was just like, this is not for me. And when are you guys going to stop? And they didn't until I left like many hours later. So anyway, Western States cool. Bashing someone who doesn't finish the race, not cool.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. That's that bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, shall we move along to today's topic du jour, which is if you could do it all over again, what would you change? I think
We're
go ahead.
No, 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 no. Go ahead,
Well, I
host.
was just gonna say we're gonna do a couple like athletic ones, maybe 2 to 3, and then like 2 life ones. We'll do a little bit of everything. Or two, one, whatever you got. But like life and
Whatever I got.
athletics. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Do you want to begin with yours or you want me to start?
I can start with mine while you
Okay,
pull up your
that's
secret doc. Let's see. I'll start with in order. So in athletics, I think the one thing I probably would have changed the most in athletics was valuing the little things a little earlier in my career. And by little things, I mean sleep, nutrition, rest, recovery, little things like that. I didn't sleep well in high school. In high school, my coach had a AIM was the thing we used in high school, dating myself. My coach had a secret AIM account. And if I was up at like 9:30, 10 o'clock on like a night before a meet, he would might just send a little message, say, get to bed, which, I appreciated also because I was literally doing nothing online like I do now when I stay up late. I'm just on the internet searching something in my mind, and I'm like, I could just be sleeping. So didn't even in my 30s, even now I'm getting a tiny bit better, but definitely never prioritize sleep like I should. Never prioritize nutrition until recently when I learned more about it. Like yes, in 2000, nutrition wasn't as mainstream and information available, right? So the information you might get would be like eggs are bad, eggs are good, based on big egg company telling you what they wanted to hear, and you don't have any counter knowledge. But I didn't really fuel my body thinking I was an athlete, right? Like, I didn't eat 2 hours before a run because I thought it might upset my stomach. Now I'm eating like 5 minutes before a run. I didn't, there's a lot of things I didn't do. I didn't hydrate as well. I didn't drink water because what, you know, 18 to 24-year-old drinks water. There's no time for that. So I think I would have appreciated sort of being better with the little things earlier on in my career. Because, man, I think if I would have, I wonder how much that would have helped some cases and some consistency and just, growing as a runner and in athletics.
a good one. Eh, For me, the first one that I'll share is I wish I would have started lifting heavier weights in my 20s because even when I started, I have a very different relationship with fitness and exercise. I didn't really start until I was in my mid, and I wonder in those formative years for bone health, for putting on muscle, had I opted out of all of and mind you, I am a group fitness instructor, but I teach group fitness in a very particular way. For some it's a little too it's not enough high intensity, throw your body burpee on the floor. We are lifting heavy weights and you're working your ass off, but it's not a I don't teach hit classes. You take adequate recoveries and, you move your way through it. But that's kind of how I started in fitness, and I'm curious if I spent less time, engaging in those modalities and more time doing a structured training program, if I had more benefits now and just lifting heavier weights earlier. I would say that would be my first.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a great one. It's also on my list, but I won't spoil it, so it's not on my list until we get to later. But it is on my list. But no, I like that. I think most people, when especially runners, want to lift, but they're like, well, not too heavy, right?
Mm,
Not we don't want to get too strong. We got to go run, right? And so like that was definitely a fear for a long time, and so yeah, I agree. Let's see. I'm gonna do a life one. Ooh, we're gonna get a little different.
okay.
A I would have loved to embrace who I really was quicker. And sort of what I mean by that is, I grew up, it may surprise everyone to hear I grew up kind of awkward, maybe really awkward. I know, shocking, but, I spent a lot of, I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s as a male. I spent a lot of time trying to be a man's man, be tougher. I was constantly told stop taking things too seriously or being too sensitive. When men would joke with each other, it would always be, oh, well, you're just taking it too seriously. Just stop being so sensitive. But then, like at the same time, if you when I would joke back, they'd be like, "Oh, you went too far." So it's always like this line like men had with kind of teasing each other, and I never really got it. So, I think I spent a lot of my high school, college, even my late 20s thinking like, "Oh, all I got to do is stop being sensitive about stuff. And then life will come easier. All I got to do is stop like having all these feelings and then life will be easier." And, every time something happened, I would just be like, "Oh, well, just don't care about it. Don't bother. Don't whatever. Don't be sensitive about it. Just let it go." And then in my mid 30s, thanks to some friends who embraced who I was, now I write a lot of, "Oh, that's cute" messages, or like, my best friend, she always tells me, "Hey, you're being emotional again," but like in a funny way, not in like a rude way, but like embracing like, "Hey, you do have that side and that's cool." And, I think if I embraced who I was a little earlier, man, it would have changed a lot of my 20s and 30s. It would have changed who I let in my life. It would have changed, how I felt about things. I would have gotten over things a little easier, I think, if I just, hey, this is who I am and this is how I feel. And I could express that. So I think, yeah, I think my life would have changed a lot. High school and college, for sure. I spent a lot of time just awkwardly navigating social circumstances, and now I feel more comfortable. I know where I belong. I know who I am. I embrace who I am, and I think that is a lovely thing that's hard for a lot of teenagers and young adults to do.
That's all. I think that with everything that we're sharing today about if we could have done things differently, um, what you just shared is something that I recognize would have made life different for you. But I do feel as though it served a purpose and it made you a more empathetic human.
Yeah, I think I had to learn this stuff to get to that point. I agree. I think if I just embraced this without the other part, it might have
Yeah.
not come as easily, and then it would have changed how it goes now. So I agree with that.
Because one thing about you is that you are unlike so many male figures in not just the running world, but as a father and as a leader and on social media, that I truly believe that to look back and think how you could have done things differently and embrace those things sooner, I don't think you could have. I don't think you could have, and I don't think it would have. I think we are better because of it. I think our community is better with the you that you are right here, right now. So
Well, thank you. Oh,
I'm
wait, I'm
gonna
not supposed to. Well, yeah, I
no, you
agree.
can say yeah, you can say you should say thank you. I said something nice about you. You should say thank you. I
I was
believe it though.
learning. Yeah,
I know, I
thank
know.
you.
So I'm gonna kind of like counter what I just said. I did just say that, I am of the belief that everything in life kind of, even the things that we could have done differently, serves its purpose at the time. I'm gonna say that personally for me, something I wish that I how are we framing this again? Something we wish, what would we have changed? If I could do it all again. Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. If I could do it all over again. If I could do it all over again, I would not have suffered from multiple eating disorders. And because I do think that there are things that like people say when it comes to disease, disorders, illnesses, like something that I hear often is it happens for a reason, or it's made you stronger. And I don't agree with that in across the board. I think that there are some things that actually, like, for the rest of my life, I will have to fight tooth and nail to counter because of the decisions that I made for so many years. And do I believe that my experience has helped me as an educator and as a personal trainer and a run coach and as a professional in this space? Yeah, sure. It has. Has it made me be more I have an eye for behaviors that maybe a lot of people do not have. I see things like, I'm going to get a little political right now, but I'll see something, a headline where RFK wants to put a wearable device on every American's wrist. And I have, yeah, right. So for me, I come from a lens of, oh, not only is it problematic that we are, there are so many other things health wise that we really need to be looking at as a country for people to have access to, and it's not a whoop on a wrist. But I also look at it from the lens of somebody who sees people day in and day out really way too tied to metrics, and it's real. You can look this up. There has been a rise in orthorexic behaviors,
Hmm.
this obsession with health, disordered eating and eating disorders, obsessive exercising, and it's really also disconnected us from our bodies. And so I say all that to say that it has provided me with a unique perspective that I don't think a lot of people have at the forefront. And is that a skill and is that a talent? Sure. Could I have done without all those years of suffering, and could I have done without the osteoporosis diagnosis at age 33? Yeah, I could have done without all that. So, I would say I would have done things differently.
No, and I agree. I agree. I think we use that phrase, oh, everything happens, for a reason to help you grow or be stronger. Like, I saw a nice thing on Instagram the other day and I reposted it. It was said something like, maybe the journey isn't about becoming anything, but about unbecoming everything that isn't really you. I thought that was very well, like, it really hit me. I'm
Mm,
like, oh, whoa, like maybe that is what we're doing here, is like all these things that are a part of us, and kind of spun this conversation, but all these things that are a part of us, and it's like maybe it's really just trying to get all these things who that aren't aligned to ourselves out, you know
yeah, well said.
so I didn't say it, someone in Instagram wrote it, but I reposted it, so by therefore I own the material now, so yes, credit me.
Can't think of
it's
a
like
worse kind of person
it's like that
who
Michael Scott
shit.
thing. You take 100% of the shots you don't take, and he crosses out Wayne Gretzky and writes Michael Scott. Anyway, me, let's go with athletics. I got so yeah, hold on. So I got caught up a lot in the do more crowd in my mid 30s, and I had started coming back to running, and there was so much sharing of information online, Strava and other things, and I chased miles a lot. This was before I started seeing things get better, but I would try and be faster in workouts, constantly comparing to older workouts, comparing to others. I'd keep pushing miles and miles and miles. I chased competition, I chased the noise, I grinded in an unhealthy way. I fell for a lot of this rhetoric that exists everywhere, and I kept pushing it. I think it was new. Strava was many years ago, was the new way of sharing, and everyone didn't. Garmin Connect existed, but not in the social way. So like when these way ability to kind of compare things, it you really got in your head. And so for a few years, I really pushed way too hard, and it wasn't until I got my coach in 2017 that like we kind of scaled things back, got real noise and like found the right rhythm for me. So I think I held myself back a lot, leaning way too far into more, 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 more. And I wish I hadn't, because I think it would have got me to those prime years a little quicker.
Yeah, that's kind of related to my, not to steal your thunder. It's kind of related to my athletic, my next one and my last one for this fitness topic are in terms of things I could have done differently. I think what you're sharing is important because you're kind of looking at it from, you're 42 now, 43, 43,
43.
43. So you're saying that your belief is that your peak years, that you could have really leaned into recovery more, and worked harder at worked smarter, not necessarily harder, and burning yourself out, and really performed better in those peak years. Am I understanding that?
Yeah, I got caught up in doing way too much.
Yeah. Do you think your peak years are behind you?
No, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever run an. I don't know if I'll match my marathon PR, but
Yeah,
like
that's
I think I
because
could
your
still.
marathon, like you ran it in 3 minutes flat.
Well, not that
One,
fast, but
it's
I
very
mean,
close.
I don't know. I think I can still run fast. I just don't know if I'll ever approach those PRs again. So I don't. I mean, I guess that's one way of saying my peak's sort of kind of behind me, but I don't know. People are still fast in their 40s, so who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I hear you. I like that. That's a good one. For me, it's I guess it's not really related. It's kind of the opposite. I am a late bloomer runner. And the thing I wish I would have done differently is maybe connect with the running community earlier. I don't have any people who I grew up with or any family who engaged in running. I actually honestly didn't, when I look back in high school when I played lacrosse, I didn't enjoy running. I didn't have a positive relationship with like doing laps before lacrosse practice, or I also had this narrative or this story that I told myself because I was diagnosed with asthma. And when you were a kid in the 90s and you were told you had asthma, it's like pretty much, why do anything more than walk? And now when I tell people I have asthma, they're shocked because of how much I run, and just how active I am. But it was because I thought that I kept on telling myself that like I'm not going to enjoy running because I'm not going to be able to breathe. And so it kind of became this is self-fulfilling prophecy the right term, the right
It
phrase,
is.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also know that I wouldn't have the relationship I have with running now had I started it earlier. And I think that's also a good thing. So while it's something I wish I would have done differently, I also really am quite happy with the fact that it was something I didn't really engage with until later in life. So it's a half C for me.
Yeah. I think that's good. I do. No, I do agree. I mean, I think sometimes we want to be involved in something a little earlier, and we look back and like, what would it have been like if I started a little sooner? Just for the people and the community aspect, right? Like that would have made running a little more welcoming as you got older, especially during the years when the COVID years when everything shut down and you're trying to enjoy this new sport and you're like, where are the people? Like, have a community yet. But like if you did, like it would have maybe that would have changed it a little bit. But now you're living that dream. You're engaged and vibing and at all the races, and doing your thing. So yeah.
Doing what I can.
Yeah. We love it. We're going to go back to life for me. I would say the last life one for me is just I would have stood up for myself more. It's another surprise life thing that I don't stand up for myself a lot. I am very quick to apologize my whole life because it was easier. If you got in an argument with me, it's just like, oh, I'm sorry. Like it just solved the argument, right? So easy. But it added up over time, right? When you apologize so much for things aren't always your problem or what, like you constantly then end up feeling like you're the problem in your relationship, in your friendships, wherever, right? So it can feel easy in a moment to solve an argument by quickly apologizing, but then it can also feel like I was struggling to have the tougher conversations with people because instead of doing that I would just apologize. And I think all this could have helped a lot by going to therapy earlier. My wife's a therapist, and it took me 14 years of being with her to sort of get to that point. Standing up for myself probably would have helped a lot to help me feel more set in my ways, more confident in myself, and less just kind of deflecting every argument. Because arguments aren't necessarily bad, right? They help you grow, and sometimes you don't get along with someone, and that's okay, and you can talk about it. But I was always just quick to with an apology to kind of get through things. And so I wish I would have stood up for myself a little more.
That's something that I'm glad that you are putting into practice now. And it's hard to look back on moments because you probably have some key moments and experiences in your life that you look back and you're like, that conversation could have gone differently had I said, hey, I'm not cool with that. you know? I get that. I get that completely. But therapy, therapy works, man.
Yeah, and getting Amanda Katz in your life, because now I just like, what UWAK? What would Amanda Katz do?
I appreciate that. But it's interesting that you say that because something that Coach Nick and I talk about on and offline, and I speak to other, I think, entrepreneurs about this who we are friends with. Why I'm so, I would say I'm pretty good with boundaries now is because I really did not protect my peace for so long. And that would be if I could do things differently. I wouldn't have some people have a hard time letting things go. I had the opposite issue. I would just let things go. And I wouldn't have let things go. Professionally, I allowed mainly they were mainly men in power talk to me like I was beneath them. I allowed people to be really unkind to me and treat me like a doormat, personally and professionally. I really accepted the bare minimum and I did not speak up for myself as often as I could have. Instead, I just stayed quiet and I would have done things differently. And I ended up doing some things differently. And it never moves quickly. It moves slowly, but it happens. I was always, I was fortunate enough to, my parents, my dad, I never, I never felt that, I wasn't worth advocating for because of who my dad was. My dad always reminded me of who I was. And I think back to a very specific time. I don't think I've shared this on this podcast, but I worked for an organization and I worked for a nonprofit, and one of the C-suite executives had sexually assaulted me, and I went to HR about it. And it was my father who was the one who advocated for me to do that. And there were women in my family and in my life who were like, "What were you wearing?" That was their
Ugh.
And the fact that a man who also just happened to be my father was saying, "It doesn't matter if Amanda showed up to work naked." He was being,
Yeah.
you know, if you know my father, you know he's a straight shooting New Yorker, and I knew exactly what he meant, and it was what pushed me to speak up for myself. And that's one example of an opportunity that I'm glad that I leaned into. And I was young. I was a young executive, so I also felt that retaliation could have been something that happened to me, and it didn't. But I also ended up leaving that job. So I think that that is an example of something that has also helped me become very specific about where I spend my time, who I spend my time with, raising those standards, not only professionally, but personally in my life. That's my personal. We got real
Well,
personal.
thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's and those friends who should not be friends anymore making those absurd comments about whatever you're wearing that has no impact whatsoever on these things, but is always the thing that people say.
Yeah, yeah, it's
So,
okay. People don't know what they don't know.
yeah,
Fortunately, we advocate now, right?
you do.
I'm saying we because Nick and I are both advocates for not tolerate those behaviors.
Mm-mm, no way.
Ain't no way.
Um, well, yeah.
Do you
Thanks
have
for
anything
sharing all that.
else? You're
No,
welcome.
my list is completed. Did we do it?
My
Did we
goodness.
close it out?
My list is also complete.
Whoa, look at that. With
Two
that, we wrap a
completed lists.
bow tie on our midsummer before our midsummer break.
This bow?
Yep, bow right
This
there. That's the one.
this is the one. This is the
That's the
one.
one.
I'm okay. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, I just had to show off my fresh set. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry that you just had to experience that with us. Yes, we did it. And it's been a pleasure spending, wow, winter and spring
Mm-hmm.
and the very beginning of summer with you. But all good things must come to an end. And that's why
Well, we'll be
just,
back. We already have
we're
guests
going to be
lined up
back.
for August, so we'll be
We're going to be
back in
back.
August, guys. It's like a 5-week break. Amanda's trying to paint the ending. We'll be back in August. We're taking July to live our lives and go on vacations and do things. And we will come back with a whole slate of guests and episodes and topics from August till the end of the year. So don't you worry.
I'm not worried. And I don't need anyone else
I was worried
worried.
about the fans being worried. I don't want them to be worried.
You looked kind of worried when I said that.
Yeah.
Nick looks a little worried. No, I would never. I would never. Yeah, I'm not. I want to say thank you to everyone for listening this season. And always reach out to us. Reach out to us if you have anything that you would love to hear about in our new season kicking off in 4 to 12
My
weeks.
years. We will still have Patreon episodes, so you will
Yes.
still get to hear us in July
Yes.
and August. So don't you
So
worry,
if
that's
you're
not
on
stopping.
Patreon, it's not stopping. If you're on Patreon, and maybe this is a sign that you should get on Patreon, we will be there. And you can reach out to us at any time between twocoaches@gmail.com or on our Instagrams. Again, thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.
Bye.